This is the second class on the 10-step no-blame problem-solving method. It covers steps 4 through 8 and will teach you how to prepare your solution for presentation in ways that maximize your chances of getting it adopted and implemented. Let's start with step number 4, shaping your solution. This is the first step in which you first review the current policy, the one you got through your government records request, and see if there are any parts you would like to keep. If you find even a small portion of the current policy that is worth keeping, you can build upon it with your solution. For example, if the current policy on your issue of student discipline requires an in-school suspension for a second fighting offense, you can keep it and add an intervention or counseling session from your restorative discipline solution. Most restorative policies require some form of punishment upon a second offense, and in-school suspension seems reasonable. Another example of building on the current policy might include keeping the annual review of the school's district discipline policy. This makes sense and wouldn't interfere with your proposed change to a restorative approach. It may even facilitate phasing it in. The reason you want to build upon the current policy is that you can complement the school board members for some of the current policy and offer your solution as a way to improve on it. In this way, you're working with them rather than proposing to dump their policy and substitute it with yours. This helping posture will increase the chances of your success. Another thing that you need to consider when shaping your solution is what is actually required to implement it. How long did the successful policy that you found take to implement? Were any new staff hired, or were staff reassigned? Were any budgeted funds reallocated? The answer to these questions might help you shape your solution to address local conditions or constraints. You can also discuss these considerations with our school officials and get their feedback. The more you involve them and try where possible to accommodate their concerns, the better your chances for success. The next step, step 5, is to make sure your proposed solution is cost effective. In other words, that it doesn't increase the budget, or at least that in short order, its savings will more than offset any startup costs. Some restorative discipline policies are quite elaborate and require additional school space and staff. This might seem like a big price tag. However, most school districts already have funds in their budgets to pay for professional development training for their teachers. Training in restorative or intervention techniques might be done with these already budgeted funds and therefore be cost effective. Now we come to step 6, which we call doing the doable. And this step is critical in overcoming budget obstacles and also in addressing concerns that the changes you are asking for, although desirable, are beyond the capacity of the school district to accommodate given everything else that they are working on. Here is where you need to consider phasing in your solution, or if there is still reluctance, you might propose a pilot project. For example, if you meet resistance to a comprehensive overhaul of the district's discipline policy, you might suggest that they phase in the restorative approach for just a few of the many offenses covered in the overall policy. You might choose the offenses of fighting and verbal abuse and ask that school officials try restorative discipline just for these infractions. You could also consider doing this just for certain grades. This phasing approach will help you get traction toward a complete policy overhaul and give you a fallback position if you meet substantial resistance. Now we've reached step 7, which is to get advice from experts. You can submit your research to the Citizens Campaign in accordance with step 7 of the problem-solving guide, or you might contact university experts in the field of your proposed solution. And sometimes you may know retired experts like teachers or school superintendents who live in your community. Expert input is not always necessary, but it is often useful. For example, a citizen who contacted an expert on restorative student discipline found that while the expert agreed that she had found the best discipline policy suggested, that she might want to ask the school board to form an exploratory committee made up of teachers, students, parents, and other members of the community who are involved with young people and have discussions about appropriate restorative and punitive responses to various student infractions. The expert's proposal of a community-based approach to the new policy has been proven to make its implementation all the more successful because it got all aspects of the community working together toward their students' better behavior. Now we've come to step 8, where you put your proposed solution in ready-to-adopt form. Bringing a solution in the form of an ordinance or a resolution is more effective than presenting an idea. An idea, however well presented, calls for a discussion. An ordinance or resolution in a legal format calls for a vote. But how can you, as a lay person, develop a legal form of your solution? First, you can research for a copy of the legal document that was adopted to enact the evidence-based solution that you found when you did your Google search. Another way to find a legal form is to review the Citizens Campaign Solution Sharing Platform. There, you'll find a menu of solutions complete with legal formats. If your issue is among them, you will find a legal form for your proposal. You can also work with a volunteer attorney or even your school board's attorney, if he or she is supportive, to draft the ordinance or resolution needed to implement your solution. Even if you can't find the perfect legal form to comply with local law, submitting some legal form for your solution will give you a good starting point that will prompt the school board's or city's attorney to review and revise it to fit local legal requirements. And here's an important suggestion. Make sure that you incorporate language in the introductory part of your resolution or ordinance that recognizes the good parts of the current policy and any recent efforts or discussion that your local officials have had about seeking to improve the policy that you are proposing to amend or replace. Recognizing their efforts and, where possible, the good parts of the existing policy will make it easier for them to accept your proposal as an offer of help and support as opposed to a criticism.